Good morning. My name is Emily. I am filling in today for Sean, your usual host of the Daily Dose, but I'm so excited to be here with you for today's Daily Dose of Support, focused on what our parents, our new parents, folks who might be pregnant or expecting a baby, might need, as well as those folks who just gave birth. What does it look like to support our community through this time of COVID? I'm so grateful to be joined today by our guest, Bonetta Ward. Bonetta runs Nurturing Nature Birth Institute. She's a full spectrum doula, and she's going to share so much wisdom with us today about this topic. Now, I have to share with you all, a little selfishly, that this is a topic that I am so excited that this is when Sean needed me to fill in as host. Before working with Alive and Well, I practiced as a doula, and I really believe that making sure we support families as well as possible during this critical time is essential for the health of our community. So I want to just open it up to Bonetta to share any thoughts that she has, big picture, about why it's so important for us to be talking about and thinking about supporting this part of our community.
So, as a lot of people know, this is a very stressful time for everyone. And so, because of that, a lot of what we do has to be around making sure that people thrive in this current pandemic. And so, pregnant families are already a vulnerable population because they are preparing to bring a baby in this world, but then also they are also having to make sure that their lives are healthy as a mom and a dad or partner, but then also the baby. And so making sure that we give as much support as we can through their very vulnerable and new experience, and making sure that the health of their baby is okay and also their health.
Yeah, I think that that's so true, right? There's a concept in public health that the best way to measure the health of a society is to measure the health and well-being of moms and babies, right?
Exactly.
When a society is well, moms and babies are well. And
Exactly.
we see, not to go too deep into this, we see the way in which community traumas play out in poor health outcomes in our communities. We see how when a community is not well, it's our moms and babies who are sort of that canary in a coal mine, right? That tell us this
Exactly.
problem.
And I think that's what kind of to your point. That's why it's so vital that we make sure that we support these families during this time, because it's already stressful. But then also, if we get even more focused in on the statistics as far as Black families who are more likely to die or to have morbidities because of um, the systemic pressures or racism that are already built up against them, that already create stress. So then to add on the COVID pandemic, which adds on another layer of stress. And we know what toxic stress does to people health wise. And so this is a great opportunity to really make sure that we are looking out for those who we serve and who will eventually bring forth the future leaders of our communities.
Absolutely, perfectly said. Now, I mentioned in your introduction that you practice as a full spectrum doula. Could you just explain to folks what that means, what a doula does, and what specifically a full spectrum doula does?
Sure. So basically, a full spectrum doula is a great support person to have that will help to educate you on the birthing process, help you to understand your options that you have during your birthing and postpartum period, but then also someone who is that your constant throughout the birth and postpartum process. This person can help you to connect with resources that you may need. They are a great non-judgmental ear in times where you need to talk or just sort your thoughts throughout your pregnancy and postpartum journey. And then they are also just a great person to be that third person to kind of talk and be the listening ear to help in the communication in this exciting time for the mom and the family. So what I do is I support women and their families through birth or through prenatal. So that's before birth. So doing prenatal sessions to help mom to understand her plan, um, any to dispel any type of fears that may be had, to help in pain management techniques and anything that comes about that will help mom and partners to better feel empowered during their birthing experience. I also support women during the actual birth. So going to whatever place mom wants to deliver, whether it's home, whether it's at the birthing center or the hospital. And then also, I also offer virtual support as well. And I think we'll talk about that a little later. And then also the postpartum experience. So making sure the mom is supported in her healing throughout the postpartum period, whether that is doing light duties like meal prepping or helping with cleaning or helping with the baby, allowing mom or partners to have that time to themselves so that they may tend to themselves. So I think it's a great opportunity of support for any family who is bringing a child into the world, and then also those who have had a child and just needs a little bit more support during the postpartum period.
Yeah, thank you. I always used to tell my clients that really the job of a doula is to be the only person there concerned solely with your experience.
Yes.
Right? So all of the health providers that might be a part of it, they're there to make sure that you and your baby are safe and healthy.
Right.
And the family who is there, they're there to become a parent or a grandparent or an auntie or an uncle or whatever it is. But I am just here to think about your experience and what you'll remember from this.
Yes.
And I think, that experience was so important, and we know that it matters, right? We have a lot of research that tells us that this is a critical time and how families form a concept of themselves, how parents understand what it's going to mean to be parents. And it's such a critical emotional time for a family. And so obviously, we can't go be the doula for every single person, even if we might want to, right? But for folks who are listening today who are either on the side of being pregnant or new parents themselves, or who love people who are in that situation but aren't trained doulas, I want us to talk a little bit sort of through the whole perinatal spectrum of what you need to know during the COVID-19 pandemic, of what kind of considerations look like. So I want to start really in that prenatal period that you talked about. So while someone's pregnant or before they give birth, what are some of the things that it's important for parents to know as well as for the people that support them?
Okay. So for me, I feel the prenatal part of the journey is very important. This is when you acquire a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding of what you may want as far as your birthing experience. But then also, if you are the birth supporter, then you are the person who is able to help that family to navigate this process. So making sure that you're understanding what are all the options that my mom or the mom has in this period, excuse me. And so for the pregnant family, it is a time really to kind of just take in everything and then just try to understand what is it that I really want, understanding the situation that is before me. So during this COVID time, it's essential to really have those tough conversations. What if my doula isn't able to come into the room? What if me as a doula, I'm not able to go into a room with my client? How am I supporting her? Or if you're a family member and the pregnant mom thought that she could have 3 people and instead she only has 1, making sure you're going through all of these different scenarios so that you can feel empowered no matter if you have one person there supporting you in the room or you have your entire birth support. And then also during the prenatal period, also considering scenarios that would include virtual support. Is that an option? Is teleconferencing an option? Talking about those things so that you know your options and you're feeling more supported. But then also talking about what if you don't have the teleconferencing feature? What if things happen so fast that you aren't able to call into your doula? Or sometimes there are technical difficulties. Do you feel empowered that that person that will be supporting you that can come to the birth with you can be there with you. So I think discussing really all of the options really helps to increase the feeling of being empowered for that family that's beginning to prepare for birth.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's always important for folks who are planning a birth is to remember that all of these, these plans and thinking through all these different contingencies, it doesn't change the fact that at the end of the day, we don't control when we go into labor or what our bodies or the babies do. But it's about helping to make sure that when those things happen, we've thought through what's important. And so right now, when delivery sites are changing expectations, as you mentioned, about who can be in the room. Maybe we had a vision of who is going to support us, and that's not possible. Thinking through those things shouldn't feel like an added stress or like we're spending time thinking about the negative. It's really about giving ourselves a chance to really discover what's important to us, right? And really discover at the end of the day, what do I need to set myself up with in terms of an expectation of what I can control when a lot of things are going to feel out of control.
And I think definitely making sure that you're keeping that main goal in mind, like you spoke of, which is having a healthy baby and mom being healthy as well. And so when you put that in the forefront of your mind, at least that's what I kind of work with my clients is what is the ultimate goal that you want to happen? And most people say healthy baby, healthy mommy. And so I feel during this time, that's a great way to kind of try to I guess change our perspective in, like you said, being more positive as opposed to thinking about the daunting aspects that could possibly happen, which is great. Well, I shouldn't say great, but it's good to speak about every scenario that can possibly happen. But I always tell people, like, think about it. Everything is 50-50 in life in general. And is it most beneficial for you to think about the outcome that you don't want to happen or the outcome that you do want to happen, even though you have discussed all outcomes? And so because we have already discussed all outcomes, now we can focus on the outcome that we want to happen. And so I think during this time, during where people are pregnant, it is a time where you can, when you think one thought that is not what you want, you can spiral out of control. And so we don't want that because it's already a lot happening, a lot of beautiful work happening in the baby growing. But then also we want to make sure that mom is in a healthy state and partners in a healthy state to enjoy this experience because like you said, it's still a beautiful experience.
And I think, one advice that I would have for anyone who might know someone who is pregnant, loves someone who is pregnant, is to really be thoughtful about all of the stress and hard messages they already have coming into them right now, right? They're already being told by their care provider that delivery might look different. They're already experiencing that maybe their partner or loved one can't come with them to their ultrasound or their prenatal appointments. So they're already dealing with a lot of stress of not just it's always stressful to go through this massive change, but they're doing it during a pandemic. And so to be really thoughtful about how we offer our experience or our concerns in their space, right? So we don't want to be an added source of stress. And so I always encourage people that, a lot of folks had negative experiences themselves being pregnant or giving birth or in that postpartum period, and your stories need to be heard and listened to, but they maybe don't need to be heard or listened to by people who are pregnant right now. And so to really be thoughtful about, am I sharing this story in a way that's going to feel supportive and helpful to this person? Or am I actually adding to another thing for them to be worried about or adding to that negative energy? So we've talked a little bit about that pregnancy time period. I want to talk moving into the moment has come, baby has decided it is time to enter this world. What do folks need to know about that period of time? And then also, how can others be supporting families?
So, kind of to piggyback on what you said before. So, in pregnancy, you want to make sure that you are speaking to your health professional. So, your OB, that relationship that you have with that person, or your midwife, that clinician that is helping you along this journey as well. Making sure that you're being open and honest about your feelings, I think, is very important. Then also making sure that you're asking the clinician, what will my birth look like? So then you are not surprised when you go into the hospital or the birthing center, or you are birthing at home. You're not surprised what you may be walking into, because you have spoken to the clinician and you both are on the same page. So then when you go into the birthing room, you are better, you know that your your support team is on the same page, which makes the birthing mom feel more supported, because she's being heard, she's being understood, but then also saying you're safe. It's important. During birth, there are particular hormones that are needed to advance the birth. And so those hormones can be able, or will be able, to multiply when you are in a relaxed state, you being the pregnant mom. If there's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of the oxytocin and other hormones that are needed to actually birth a baby or cut short or limited. And so we want to just make sure that for the pregnant mom, a tool is to really center yourself, tap into your power. If you have any concerns, to communicate those concerns, but to really breathe through. In your prenatals, whether it's with your clinician, with your doula, with your family member, with your midwife, hopefully those fears should have been discussed. The questions that were really, burning for you to ask have been asked, and you have been giving the answers that will help you to navigate this process. So during the birth, your only goal is really to relax so that you can allow your body to work with you. And for I think a tip for the birth worker or the support person is really to help moms to remember that, that they got this, you got it, no matter if it's virtual support or in person.
I think that's so important. And one of those things where you can't start thinking about what you want in labor when labor begins, right? Because that's not the part of your brain that you need to be in. And so making sure those conversations have been had. One thing I always encouraged my clients to do was, in all of those thoughts that we had talked about of what they really wanted out of their delivery experience, you could probably write a book, right? I know that I could write a book about what I hope my future birth looks like. When I'm in that moment, I don't have the space to read that. And whoever my care provider is also doesn't have the space, right? And especially right now during COVID-19, when the folks who are those medical professionals helping to keep moms and babies safe have a whole lot to be worrying about, it's reasonable that they don't have time to read through a 10-page birth plan. But through all of those conversations that you might have had and information you worked through, could you narrow it down to a single 3x5 index card and really then dive down to what is the most important thing for me in this experience? What are the 2 or 3 things that are most important for my care provider to know? And then if it's only these few things, I know that they can be heard and respected and taken in, and I can remember them and they can remember them.
To your point, I think it's really important to stress the importance of the birth plan and it not being 4 or 5 pages. Like, but then also that you have it and that you share that with your clinician beforehand. So then when you're walking into birth, you know that your support team knows your wants, your needs, your desires, but then also that you are aware too that if things should go in a different route, that it will be communicated to you because you've already established a relationship with your clinician, with your partner, with your family member, but then also maybe with your doula. And so I think it's very important that you have the people around you that you know are listening to you. So that means if you feel like you're with a clinician or with a support person or whoever who you don't feel as connected with, or may not be, you don't feel as heard, then other considerations may need to be taken into consideration. You know, have you thought about moving? Have you thought about communicating? I think that's a big barrier for a lot of families, and I feel like it's not to their fault, because you are looking at trauma. But then also, it's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of families don't even want to go to the hospital when it comes to birthing right now because of COVID. And so, just really communicating that, seeing your options. Some people are able to birth at home, and that's a great opportunity. But then there are some women who have to birth at the hospital. What does it look like? Have you communicated, talking to your clinician? Do your family members understand, you know, how to support you best during this time? So I think I would, if I could leave one tool or tip, it definitely would be communication and being flexible.
Yeah, I think that those things are so important, and I think they're tips that also carry well into the postpartum period, right? Where doing postpartum during social distancing isn't what anyone probably envisioned when they first found out that they were pregnant, right? Or in the midst of an economic crisis or a global pandemic, right? Those weren't the conditions that folks necessarily had in mind that this period would look like. So shifting to that postpartum, incredibly important time period, right? Those weeks and months after giving birth. What do you think are some of the most important things for families who are in that season of their life to know and understand about their well-being during this time?
I really feel like postpartum to me is the most important part of the birthing experience or the birthing journey. And that's just because mom has is reborn. And then not only that, you have a little one that doesn't speak the language that you speak. And so a lot of patience is needed, but then also mom definitely has to heal. And lying in is something that I always communicate to my clients. And that's really just allowing yourself to rest. Because as most people say, you're wide open, meaning that you just birthed the baby. And so everything needs to go back to pre pregnancy. And so that takes time. And so, just like you would heal from any other type of experience that we probably can visually see, like if you hurt your arm or broke your arm or anything like that, that requires healing. So, and that is also what a mom needs after postpartum. So, I think the support person, whether it be the partner, the family member, the doula, definitely being there to communicate and ask questions. Ask mom how she's feeling, and for mom to really be honest with herself. And it's okay, or you should be okay with communicating whether you're frustrated, you're sad, you're mad, you're happy, you're excited, but then also, you know, making sure that we act on that. So if mom is experiencing like post postpartum mental and anxiety disorder, that you are able to connect her to a resource. One resource that I definitely want to leave with you all is called the Moms Line. And the Moms Line is a warm referral line that most hospitals are connecting postpartum moms to. Right now, it's out of St. Mary's Hospital, and moms can call this phone number to be connected to anything, whether it's resources, postpartum care, support, support groups. If you need any type of need that you feel has come up during your postpartum time, this line is also for women who are also pregnant. That is an opportunity as well. And so I definitely want to leave that with moms and also partners and family members. If you come across a mom who may need somebody to talk to and you're not quite sure how to help them, or if they just need resources or understanding, or somebody that can actually connect them to the resources that they need, the Moms Line is a great first step. Um, Anything else? Let me know.
I think, one thing that's important for the family members and loved ones of people in this season of life to remember is that it's normal if someone's grieving the loss of an experience, right? So grief is something that we're seeing woven throughout our community's COVID-19 experience, not only about the actual losses we're experiencing, but also the losses that people are having because of how the world has shifted. And it's, very likely that someone's birth experience, pregnancy, or immediate postpartum is looking different than what they planned. And it's normal and natural and even healthy to grieve that loss. And so not only does the person experiencing that need to know that, but also to remind the folks around them that that's a normal thing to do. And to keep an eye out, right? So perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, as you mentioned, we used to call it postpartum depression. And then we understood that it actually looks like a whole lot more things. And really, your risk factor doesn't end until your last child's out of diapers. So it's a big spectrum. But to keep an eye out, right? So if you do start to notice something where I know they're going through a hard time, but this feels like a little bit different, to be that person who says, hey, call this line. We'll also list some additional resources and the comments and description of this video. And then the other things I wanted to mention is for the loved ones of folks in this season, to just think about how you can truly be supports. And so as much as you might want to go meet that adorable new baby, because who doesn't want to hold, a perfect little burrito infant, this isn't the time to do it. And it can be hard for new parents to have to set that boundary with people that want to meet their baby. But it's the best thing, that social distancing, to keep that new parent and their baby safe. So, really think critically about how you say, I want to come meet your baby, right? And how that might feel on the other end. And then also think about like practical things you can actually do. So, Vanetta, I know we were talking about like the idea of a meal train. Could you explain to people what that could look like?
So a meal train is a website that you can go on, and basically your support system, whoever you have on there, you all can go on to Meal Train and plan out who's going to help put together the meals for the postpartum mom. And so you can pick days, you can plan it for just today, for a week, or for months out. And so I think it's a great platform to really be of any type of support or service to that mom. So, and then even if you're not the best cook, you can also still just sign up on Meal Train and then maybe get her food delivered, or maybe get someone else to cater the food to her. So I think it's just a really great opportunity to make sure that we are trying to take as much work off of mom as possible. So no, we probably can't be there in the physical, but I can offer a warm meal that really helps in her healing process. Or I can call and check on her and see how she's feeling. So maybe not necessarily calling and immediately asking, how the baby? Instead, calling and asking her, how you feeling today? Have you eaten today? Have you showered today? Have you got up today? Have you been drinking water? These are like serious questions that sometimes moms forget. It's not necessarily that they want to, but it's so much going on. I mean, you just had a baby, and you are also healing yourself as the pregnant mom or now postpartum mom. And so we really want to be gentle and compassionate, and make sure that mom is also being gentle with herself.
I think that is a beautiful message and reminder. So we are coming up to the end of our time. So I want to leave you all, as we often do today, first with an enormous gratitude to Vanetta for joining us today. And as I mentioned, we'll make sure to post all of those resources that were mentioned in this video once it's archived on Facebook. But as we shift to thinking about our daily dose of support challenge today, for all who might be watching, it's this. If you know anyone in your circle, and maybe it's even just someone you're still Facebook friends with from high school or college or whatever, but you know that they're in this season of life, think about what support could look like for them. And one of the best things that we can do when we're trying to help someone is not just reach out and say, hey, how can I help you? But actually just go ahead and offer a support, right? Go ahead and if you have the capacity, get them dinner delivered, or send them just a message of warmth and thinking and greetings, whatever that might be, a positive note, something that can help them feel seen and connected to during that time. So think about what your role can be in supporting this. As always, we hope that you hear this and are well and are remembering to prioritize your self-care. Whether you're in this season of life or not, your well-being, your self-care is always essential. So thank you again to Bonetta for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with Sean as your host again, talking about more important information that you need to stay safe and well during this time. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.